I've read many books in my life, but there are some that really resonated with me, that greatly improved my life once I started applying their core ideas. So in this video, I want to share 3 books that had a great impact on me and that continue to guide me on my journey. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Peter, and on this channel we speak about living with intention, slow living, minimalism, that kind of stuff. Alright, let's get started. A few years ago, I read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, and it genuinely changed my life. The core idea of the book is that there are 2 basic mindsets that shape our lives: a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. For someone with a fixed mindset, talent is king. A person's abilities are set in stone from the get-go. You're either intelligent or not, you're competent or not, you're born a certain way, and that's it. Practice certainly doesn't make perfect. It's how they view others, but also themselves. So for someone with a fixed mindset, their entire personality is at stake. If they slip up, it affects them at their core. Were they incompetent fools all along? Someone with a growth mindset believes that our intelligence and our talents are not fixed but can be improved. And sure, talent plays a role, but at best it's a diamond in the rough that needs to be developed over time through deliberate practice. So someone with a growth mindset, they don't just seek out challenge, they thrive on it. They understand failure is part of the deal. And sure, it can be painful, but unlike someone who adopts a fixed mindset, failure doesn't define them. Failure is just part of the learning experience, and it's part of wanting to achieve anything in life. So some differences are that someone with a fixed mindset seeks approval, and someone with a growth mindset seeks development. And someone with a fixed mindset sees failures as disasters, and someone with a growth mindset instead sees it as opportunities. And finally, someone with a fixed mindset tends to avoid difficulties, whereas someone with a growth mindset relishes them. So how does this relate to me? Growing up, I was considered the smartest of my siblings. Learning always came easy to me. I didn't really have to do much for it. But when things got harder in school, I started to struggle. My whole identity was wrapped up in this idea of I am smart, I don't have to do much. Things will just work out. And then when they didn't, I really didn't know what to do with myself. Like, it really affected my self-image. And I did what anyone with a fixed mindset would do. I did less. Because if I did less and then I didn't get the grades I wanted, at least I could tell myself like, well, it's not because I really tried and then failed, it's because I didn't try. And surely if I put in a little bit extra, it would be easy again. So, I was able to contain that self-image I had, but it came at a price. Like, I ended up having to redo 1 year in high school. These days, I take a very different approach. Since learning about the notion of a growth mindset, I love challenges and learning new things. It's been liberating. I now understand that failure is part of the process, and if I don't succeed immediately, it doesn't say much about me as a person. It just means that maybe I need to put in a little more effort. I like Tim Ferriss' point of view that failure isn't failure if you can gain new skills and develop relationships for future advancement. I worked as a lawyer for 8 years, and when I quit, I had to start over and reinvent myself. That was scary and also difficult at times. But what helped me was adopting a growth mindset to face the challenges that came on my way. The way I see it, it's like climbing a very steep stairs. You can't really see where it's going, you can only see the next step. And as you climb step after step, there will be failures, but you just gotta keep on climbing. And when you're at the top and look back, you can see how all the steps are connected like links on a chain. So now I follow my curiosity, I love challenges, and the world is my playground. So this book put the slow living movement on the map. It was published in 2004. I read it a few years ago and it struck a chord. In 1930, the economist John Maynard Keynes predicted that his grandkids would only work about 15 hours a week due to gains in productivity. And he wondered how his grandkids would spend their leisure time. But as Oliver Burkeman wrote in 4,000 Weeks, another book I really enjoyed, Keynes was wrong. It turns out that when people make enough money to meet their needs, they just find new things to need and new lifestyles to aspire to. They never quite manage to keep up with the Jonases, because whenever they're in danger of getting close, they nominate new and better Jonases with whom to try to keep up. So we just get more and more efficient at keeping ourselves busy. Carl Noré describes that as a society, we're addicted to speed. It's not that speed is all bad. I love being able to take a 1-hour train ride to a city without having to walk there. And without fast internet, you wouldn't be able to watch these videos. But Honoré argues that our obsession with speed, our desire to do more and more things in less and less time, has gone too far. Time is our most valuable, non-replenishable resource. And slow living is about bringing back balance to how we spend it. We have forgotten what it's like to simply look forward to something and how to enjoy the moment when the thing arrives. Or slowing down and simply being alone with our thoughts. Finding time to slow down increases the quality of our lives. In his book, Carl Honoré explores what it means to slow down in different settings: food, city life, work, leisure, and parenting. I particularly like the chapter on slowing down in a city. I enjoy urban life, and I bet a lot of you watching probably live in cities too. But the city keeps us in motion, switched on. It invites us to rush rather than relax, reflect, or reach out to people. Just think of all the cars, the crowds, the consumerism. I see how moving to the middle of nowhere would help with slowing down. But for many of us, that's just not an option. And even if it is, would you really want to? I personally like the buzz of a big city, but wish it were just a little less frenetic. But does that mean slow living is out of reach for us city dwellers? In his book, Carl Honoré discusses the Cheetah Slow movement. It's an international network of cities where living is good. It's not just about slowing down a fast city. The idea is to create an environment where people can resist the pressure to live by the clock and do everything faster. It originally focused on towns with fewer than 50,000 inhabitants. But recently they have developed the Cheetah Slow Metropolis model at the request of cities like Barcelona, Brussels, and Taipei. Some of the key pillars are a focus on community first, access to good and healthy food, sustainable and quality mobility by increasing the walkability and bikeability of the city, and creating so-called Cheetah Slow neighborhoods, which are peaceful and self-sufficient. But I don't think we have to wait for others to turn the city that we live in right now into a slow city. There are things we can do ourselves. I made a separate video about that called Guide to Slow Living in a City, which you can watch right here. A few things you can get started with is becoming a tourist in your own city, walking around more instead of taking the car everywhere, and visiting parks. And I also recommend checking out William Power's book New Slow City, which describes his one-year experiment of living a slow living lifestyle in the middle of Manhattan in New York City. So going back to Carl Honoré's book, it made me reflect on how I spend my time. I want to spend it on things I find meaningful. These YouTube videos, traveling, having deep conversations with people I care about. And I also want to be more present, appreciate the little things like my morning cup of coffee, reading a book, going out to watch the sunset. I've also implemented small things that help me slow down throughout the day. When I wake up, I don't check my phone. I leave it on airplane mode and instead I go for a walk, and when I come back, I read a little bit, 15 to 20 minutes. It can be a non-fiction book or a short story by Murakami. And another thing I am mindful of is the information I take in throughout the day. So I stopped watching the news a while back, and it's been really a great decision. I've realized I don't miss much. I do still check the news maybe once a month or twice a month, just to get a high-level overview of what's going on in the world. I want to be informed at that level. But I used to check the news so many times a day, just refresh the news sites out of habit. It was really compulsive. And I'm so glad that habit is no longer in my life. And when I have a conversation with someone, I set the intention to be present, to really listen and not drift off or think about what I'm going to say next when they're done talking. I'm by no means perfect at this, but it starts with setting that intention. Slow living is not about doing everything slowly. Carl Honoré writes that slow living is about finding balance. We're not designed to expend energy continuously. Rather, we're meant to be pulsing between spending energy and recovering energy. If we carve out moments to slow down, we'll be able to accelerate when it's really needed. And I've found that to be true in my own life. When I do my work, I have deadlines to meet. And I'm also driven. I like getting things done. But what I've come to accept is that to be productive long-term, sustainably, it's really important for me to find moments throughout the week and even the day where I slow down. I used to feel guilty about that. But In Praise of Slow has shown me that this is actually the better way of living, and also way more enjoyable. Sometimes you read a book and the moment you finished it, you want to read it again. Now, this doesn't happen too often, but The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer is one of those books for me. You know that little voice in the back of your head? It will say things like, "Can't believe what Paul said about me yesterday." Or, "I shouldn't forget to buy pasta on the way back home." It's like having an inner roommate in the back of your head. It just won't stop talking, and it will even take both sides of the conversation. And if you're thinking, "I don't have that voice," that's the voice. What's the purpose of it though? Michael Singer argues that it narrates the world to us. It gives us this false sense of control, like backseat driving. The voice makes it so that a tree is no longer just a tree in the world that has nothing to do with you. It is a tree that you saw, labeled, and judged. Whereas the outside world has its own laws, this inner world is an alternate environment that is under your control. But the downside is that we're experiencing a mental model of reality, not reality itself. However, it doesn't have to be that way. We are not our thoughts or feelings, they don't define us. We can simply observe them. They come and go without us having to do anything with them, like clouds in the sky. There's something beyond that, which is our true self. It's the experiencer, that which is aware, conscious of all of this happening. Another way of looking at it is that we're in a cage, similar to animals in a zoo. We impose mental boundaries on our own minds to protect ourselves from anything we feel threatens our idea of who we are. When we let go of our thoughts, our consciousness can expand. And then our negative thoughts won't bring us down, they'll simply float on by. This is how we can transcend our personal self. To me, this touches on what it means to be alive. A good life, one with purpose. On this channel, I speak about things like slow living and minimalism, but to me, those are merely tools to living a more intentional life. It's never been about doing everything slowly or having just a few possessions. What drives me is that if I'm lucky enough to grow old, I can reflect on a life that was well lived. One where I chose opportunity and following my curiosity over comfort, even if that was scary in the moment. It's so easy to always be busy with something, chasing a better future, giving in to the pull of our wants and desires, with life passing us by. When I was a teenager, life on Earth seemed to feel like an eternity. But now that I'm in my 40s, I found that the passing of time seems to accelerate with age. And I don't want to wake up one day in my 70s, if I'm lucky enough to grow that old, thinking, what happened? What did I do with my life? I've read The Untethered Soul 3 times now, and I will reread it again. Each time I read it, different paragraphs catch my attention. The book points to a path that I've only just started walking on. And sometimes I make real progress, other times I get sidetracked. But I keep getting back to this book to guide me on my journey. These books have really changed my life, and I wish I had read them earlier. There are also other things I wish I had known earlier in my life. I made a separate video about that called 9 Things That I Wish I Knew in My 20s, which you can watch right here. So thanks for watching, I hope to see you in the next video, and take care. Bye!